you came from a background in the writing. I've read a lot of your blogs. I was both like fascinated and in some ways horrified. Like in some ways thinking like, there is so much intensity here. I don't know if I'm knocking on Dante's Inferno doors and saying like, is this welcoming in an experience that is better locked away? But as I read the things that you're doing, you talk a lot about your religious upbringing and the fact that you were homeschooled. So tell me about your childhood and why that plays such a big role in what you write about today.
Yeah. I was homeschooled in a fundamentalist, evangelical, Calvinist, Reformed family. So it was a lot of like isolation from the outside world. Like we didn't watch normal media. All of the other people, I do not want to restart computer. Thank you. All of the other people I knew were religious and homeschooled in the same way I was. So like there was this really disconnect from the outside world that was pretty very severe and pervasive. Didn't listen to secular music. And my dad is a professional evangelical minister. So he goes around debating. He has like a radio show and writes books and has a website. So that was like my whole life and family was being really immersed in the Bible and God. And I memorized, over 800 verses over the course of my childhood. I had a lot of experience like debating atheists even when I was young. It was like super ingrained. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had a very interesting take on some of this stuff, as I've heard you talk about in other interviews, where you said, look, my religion was not one where we were cloistered off and we said, don't listen to other people. In fact, It was, we're open to questioning. We want this type of interaction. And you spoke of it as being almost like a reinforcing thing because you were so open that ultimately made you more closed off.
Yeah, so we were very culturally closed in the sense of like not exposure to secular things. However, we were very open to contradicting ideas. So a lot of people have a stereotype that Christianity, like you're like, hey, what about this thing in the Bible? That seems weird. And then the Christians go, don't ask questions. You're just supposed to believe. That was not the case with us. We were encouraged to ask questions. Like I mentioned, my dad is a professional debater. And so he basically had the attitude that like anything you can question, please question it because we have the truth. And it will stand up to any sort of rigorous investigation. So it was super investigative and a lot of debates happened. And I enjoyed that part a lot.
A couple of months ago, there was an article circulating around in ag Twitter with a Harvard law professor that basically was saying the core of homeschooling is rotten. They're teaching people bad things. And the only way the state can protect us from the racist things they say, the sexist things, like basically all of the woke ideology that you hear is to eliminate homeschooling. And so I, reached out to this professor. I must have asked her 4 or 5 times to come on the podcast. It's the only time I've ever asked somebody multiple times. And she refused it. And I was really pissed off at her. Because I thought that it was completely unfair what she was saying. And then I read your kind of experience and I think, well, I don't actually want kids trapped in that sort of homeschooling situation. So as you look at your background and you look at the direction things go in the public school world and kind of the experience that you had from homeschool, how does it strike you today of the state saying you shouldn't be allowed to do it anymore?
Yeah, so my homeschooling had a lot of downsides. Like I was taught that the earth was 6,000 years old and evolution was a lie. And like the United States was founded on strictly Christian principles. And, it took me a long time to adjust after I left homeschooling. Like I had problems with, the way I was conditioned. But even with that, I think it was still significantly better than public school. Like, sure, like homeschooling
I was
sucks.
not expecting that. Wow. Okay.
Homeschooling sucks, but you know what sucks worse? It's not homeschooling. So yeah, like maybe those critiques are legitimate, but like I find them unfair to be leveled at homeschooling independently. So like when I was a teenager, I was homeschooled for all of it, except for 3 months where I went to public school, just because they were trying it out. And it was awful. Like some parts of it were better, but like the schooling itself, so it took up significantly more time to learn way less. Our time was like regimented by the system, by the teachers, by like the clock. And so just my whole day kind of went away. And whereas as a homeschooler, I would just teach myself. I would get the curriculum. My mom would like, you have to like do this lesson in this book. And I would do it at my own pace, which was way faster than public schools. They don't have to go there, like go between classes, like wait for the teacher to wait for everybody to be quiet. Like the teacher like reads through the books. Like it took so long. And then, but the most important part is that I had free time at home. And that, I think that was the best possible thing for my creativity and my independence and like ability to, like, to develop myself, just to be able to pursue what I wanted. And that was absolutely crushed with public school. So yeah, I would go through a worse experience homeschooling really before I think I would go to public school.
I was not anticipating that answer at all. Do you have a good relationship with your parents now?
It's okay. I don't really talk to my dad because he's an asshole, but my mom, I interact with her. Actually, I'm in Idaho right now. This is why I have this background. I'm traveling, so I just saw my mom last night. Did we get along okay?
So right now, I'm actually in the process of reading the book. I'm just about done with it. Lawrence of Arabia, the 7 Pillars of Wisdom by T.E. Lawrence. And I am struck that I actually think your writing is really similar to his writing.
Really?
And, yeah. And I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but it's that it's direct. It's very poetic, but it's not adorned. It's you don't read it thinking I'm just waiting for him to get done blowing smoke around here to make it fancy. And so when I read your stuff, I have to wonder, like, how long or what process did it take for you to develop the style that you have?
It's a really like specific and good questions. So part of the free time I mentioned from being when I was a teenager, I wrote like 1 million words of fantasy, and I read books all the time. I was just constantly reading books every waking moment and writing. I wrote thousands of words every day. And so I think that really got me used to writing, which is, again, is something I would never have been able to develop or focus on if I'd gone to public school. So yeah, I did that. I think that's where it comes from. And I was a voracious reader. And I'm influenced a lot by rationalist writing. I don't know if you've followed any of the blogs like Less Wrong or Slate Star Codex or something like that. But they have like a style of speaking that's influenced me quite a lot, which is very like unadorned. I don't like the pretentiousness of like academic writing that is like very vocabulary heavy. And I don't know if I'm being uncharitable, but it seems like they're like almost deliberately intending to obscure the concepts they're trying to present. It's like very inaccessible to laymen. And I feel like if you want to write well, you have to be like a child in some way. Like you have to be like a child explaining like very basically a thing like in a humble way to other people. And so that's sort of what I've been conditioned around, which I like that a lot.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you always get notified about this podcast. And if you're really interested in conversations like this, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. To find out more, go to network.articulate.ventures.